It's Friday, December 3rd, and this is now on HNN.
There are volatile petroleum products in the well.
Tests conducted by the Navy find petroleum contamination in the Red Hill drinking water well. Meanwhile, HNN sent water samples to a private lab. We'll tell you what they found.
In your church water, they did find a trace amount of diesel.
No.
The state health department confirms Hawaii's first case of the Omicron variant of COVID-19.
As we don't have that travel linkage, the implication is that there had been some transmission in the community before this came to our attention.
Plus, there's wet, windy winter weather ahead for the weekend. We got the details coming up on This Is Now.
We want to get started with this breaking news. We just learned from the Board of Water Supply's chief engineer that the BWS shut down its Halawa shaft as a precaution following the Navy well contamination.
Just want to stress this, as a precaution, the Board of Water Supply, as of last night, shortly after hearing the news about the Navy, we have shut down Halawa shaft. Halawa shaft represents about 20% of the supply for Urban Honolulu from Halawa all the way out to Hawaii Kai. As a precaution, because we tap the same aquifer, we basically take water from the same glass of water. They've shut down pumping because they suspect that their source is contaminated with petroleum. What we don't want to do is keep on pumping from our side of that glass and suck the fuel across the valley through the underground aquifer, which exists in the porous lava rock, into our wells and send it to our homes, to our customers. We do not want to do that, and that is a priority for us.
All right, you just heard from the chief engineer there from the Board of Water Supply. We're going to have so much more on the water contamination story in just a moment. Special team coverage just ahead. But first, a traffic alert we got to get to. There is a police investigation going on right now in the Chinatown area. This is on Queen Emma Street. We don't really have a good vantage point from our traffic camera, but I'm told this is taking place between Vineyard and Kukui Street. Again, a police investigation taking place right now. Let's get back to our special team coverage now.
Right, so the Navy conducted its own tests of the water and confirmed what many military residents have suspected: petroleum in the Red Hill water well.
We have pretty conclusive indications that there are volatile petroleum products in the well, and we've determined that that is the likely source of the contamination of our water distribution system across the Navy system.
We want to bring in our Grace Lee now to tell us exactly what we know up to this point regarding these water woes. Grace, what exactly did we learn from the Navy?
All right, so Jonathan, it's been nearly 5 days since these military families started complaining about getting sick from the water. Navy officials announced just last night that they have confirmed the presence of petroleum in the Red Hill water well. Now that they know which well is contaminated, Navy officials hope to be able to flush out the system so that the residents can use the water again sometime within 4 to 10 days as a hope. Rear Admiral Converse also says they are now investigating how the petroleum got in the well in the first place. Since the contamination reports first arose, there has been intense scrutiny on the Navy's Red Hill fuel storage facility, whose underground tanks are situated above the aquifer, just about 3,000 feet away. Now, this morning I spoke with Congressman Kai Kahele, who says he's willing to go all the way to get answers for the community from the Navy.
We plan to go as far as it needs to take. And if that requires the suspension of the Red Hill fuel tanks or looking at something more longer term, that's something that as the next few days and as more information comes out, we are willing to look at. Right now, the most important thing is the water quality for the island of Oahu and the long-term health and safety of our precious environment and our precious aquifer. And that's something that we have conveyed to the United States Navy, to the Secretary of Navy, who I understand is coming out to Hawaii for next week's ceremonies at Pearl Harbor. And I'm hoping to meet together with him this weekend and convey that to the Secretary of the Navy.
And Grace, I also wanted to ask you, what are we hearing from our Department of Health?
So DOH said just last night that it has received the results of the Navy's tests. And right now, they are not changing its recommendation to residents. So the health department has basically urged those who are using the Navy water not to drink that water from the tap. And if you smell fuel, you're being told not to use the water for any household chores and not to use it for bathing.
All right, Grace Lee, thank you so much for joining us here in the H&N Digital Center. Let's toss it back over to Ashley with more news.
All right, thank you, Jonathan. Happening right now, Hawaii Senator Mazie Hirono is giving an update on the tainted water situation. Let's listen in.
Senator, have you had any direct communication with the Navy? If so, what are they telling you? And as a follow-up, the Secretary of the Navy is supposed to be here next week for the December 7th commemoration. Are you optimistic that his presence here will elevate this to a higher level beyond Navy Region Hawaii?
Let me start with a visit to Hawaii regarding Red Hill by the Secretary of the Navy, Del Toro, and he will be accompanied, I understand, by the Chief of Naval Operations, Phil Day. I've spoken with both of them. We have been very concerned about Red Hill since the 2014, or at least led to an agreement between the Department of Health, the EPA, and the Navy, leading to monitoring stations, etc. But the recent developments really brought to the fore when people are seeing fuel in their water. This is totally abnormal, totally unacceptable. And so, yes, the fact that the Secretary of the Navy is coming to Hawaii very much elevates this situation to a level where remedies will need to be forthcoming as soon as possible. That is why there is water distribution going on. It's going to be very important, Dan, that we get to the bottom of this, because what could be as important as people's drinking water? As I said, I've been hearing from people who live in Navy housing in the environments by the dozens, and everybody's very, very concerned. It's critical for the Navy to communicate with the residents as well as with all of us.
Patty, can I follow up, or do I need to wait my turn around next?
We can do one. Yeah, you know what? Why don't I call on someone else, and I'll come back to you if we have time again.
No worries.
Thanks, Dan. All right, next we'll go to Daryl with Hawaii News Now.
Hi, Senator.
Hi, Daryl.
Hey, this on the Red Hill tanks issue, do you believe at this point that given the Navy's performance in this crisis, that they really should have their permit to use that facility denied through the contested case process? I mean, is there any way the Health Department can have faith in the Navy's ability to have that kind of environmental hazard perched above public water supply?
As you know, the hearing was reopened, and so all of these issues are going to be considered and coming to the fore, because first and foremost, we have to protect the safety of the drinking water. So there's going to be probably additional evidence, and the Navy is going to have to present evidence that the water is in fact safe. And this is why they have sent water that they collected. I'm not sure exactly where the water was collected, but they sent the water to labs on the mainland, as did the Department of Health. We are awaiting the results of those testing of the water. But again, I'm concerned as to where the water was collected for the testing, etc. We know that this is not normal, Daryl, that people will be smelling gasoline or fuel, and that they see oil slicks in their water. So the first and foremost, we need to get to the bottom of it, and then remedial action needs to be taken.
And that is Hawaii Senator Mazie Hirono taking questions from the media during a virtual update. Now, we at Hawaii News Now, we took our own samples and did an independent test from a church near the Hickam base. And as our Mahealani Richardson found, the tap water contained diesel fuel.
Ruth Byrne, wife of the pastor at the Church of Christ of Pearl Harbor on Main Street, says her water smelled of fuel, so we took a sample from her tap to a private Oahu lab, FQ Labs, for testing and showed her the results.
In your church water, they did find a trace amount of diesel.
No. Oh my word.
In the church water,
The lab director sent the water to another lab in Los Angeles, which found 0.125 parts per million of diesel in the church's water.
it is trace amount, and I would think that any amount would be unacceptable in drinking water.
The church is right next to military housing at Hickam, which is right over there. Now, the church says they bought this property a few years ago from the Navy.
We're surrounded by the Hickam around here. Yeah.
What are you going to tell everybody when they see this?
I'm speechless. I don't know. It's just shocking to me.
Other water experts told Hawaii News Now, even though it's diesel, that doesn't rule out contamination by jet fuel, and that it's possible it's seeping into the water system.
That's a massive amount of things that should not be in my water.
I can smell it, yeah.
H&N also sent the oily and smelly water from Alia Manu Military Reservation and military housing at Hickam for private testing, and the test did not detect gasoline, diesel, or motor oil. But FQ Labs says there could be other chemicals causing the problem.
We want the governor to declare a state of emergency so there can be more resources of fresh water brought into residents.
Military housing advocates say they've gotten nearly 700 complaints of illnesses and are calling on the governor and Navy secretary to declare a disaster.
And we just want officials to understand that if it's not good enough for them and their child, it should never be good enough for the military families and their children.
Mahealani Richardson, Hawaii News Now.
Some lawmakers also floated the possibility of shutting down the Red Hill fuel storage facility. No response yet from the Navy on that. In the short term, some want the military to provide families with access to high school locker facilities or even hotel rooms.
The response from the Navy was it's cost prohibitive. But what's the alternative? The alternative is class action lawsuits by all of those people that are getting affected by the tainted water and jeopardizing the entire drinking system for this entire island.
Let's continue our team coverage now by tossing it over to Steve Uehara, who talked to the state toxicologist today on Sunrise, Dr. Diana Felton.
You've obviously followed this very closely, and based on what you've seen so far, how concerned are you?
Hi, thanks. Yeah, that's a really good question. Certainly, there have been many people with a lot of symptoms that are consistent with exposure to different types of petroleum hydrocarbons. So we're certainly been concerned about those people and the symptoms that they've been having. On the positive side, if there is a positive side in a situation like this, is that these symptoms that people can have from these exposures go away very quickly once they stop being exposed to the petroleum hydrocarbon.
Yeah, and Dr. Felton, you mentioned something very interesting, because when you say petroleum, I mean, there are different forms of that. So let's take it bit by bit. Our Mahealani Richardson did a water test herself and detected diesel fuel. If that's what's in the water, how dangerous could that be?
It's a good question. So drinking diesel fuel will cause people to have GI upset, like nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. If people who bathe in diesel fuel or water contaminated with diesel fuel can have skin rashes and irritation. Again, those symptoms are going to go away rather quickly once you stop the exposure. What we worry about the most for petroleum hydrocarbons, and this includes diesel, is that if you aspirate or get the material into your lungs, it can be quite dangerous and cause irritation to the lungs that we call hydrocarbon pneumonitis, which basically looks like a pneumonia without the infectious component. So now, depending on the hydrocarbon, the risk of that is very broad, really ranges from, if you drink a glass of gasoline, you're most likely just going to get some upset stomach. But if you drink a gas of something like fuel oil or lighter fluid, then there's much more risk for the potential of it to get into their lungs. So that's why the difference in the hydrocarbon really matters on the risk for the inhalational or the respiratory component of it.
Right, so it depends on the substance. Does it also depend on how much was ingested or how much was used on your skin?
Absolutely, okay. And that's sort of a tenet of toxicology across the board.
Yeah.
We say the dose makes the poison. So the amount, the concentration that's in there and that you're exposed to is gonna, and over the time that you've been exposed is gonna affect all of these possibilities of causing symptoms or health effects.
Again, we're speaking to state toxicologist, Dr. Felton. Should we be more concerned for children? This did affect schools.
It's a great question. Fortunately, the concerns and the possibilities, we always worry about children because they're smaller and they have, a little bit different physiology. But in this case, the symptoms are really going to be similar to children. So the recommendations are going, would be the same for kids to not drink the water, not shower in it, etc.
Right. And one more thing, Dr. Felton, if someone has ingested it, for whatever period of time, what should they do, and how long does it take to get your body right?
Yeah, these substances get out of your body very quickly, within the matter of a day or so. So there's nothing particular to do to get it out of your body faster, but you just want to stop the exposure or stop ingesting it, and then your body will quickly clear it out of your system and the symptoms should resolve quite quickly.
To the pandemic now, the State Department of Health is reporting 125 new COVID-19 cases today and 1 additional death. For a complete breakdown, island by island, of all today's cases, just head to those H&N digital platforms. Meanwhile, DOH confirmed Hawaii's first case of the Omicron variant yesterday, and officials said that it was an unvaccinated resident who has no history of travel outside the state. That means there could be community spread of the worrisome mutation in the islands. Here's state epidemiologist Dr. Sarah Kimball.
Yes, I would expect ultimately Omicron to show up here. It was just a matter of when. Because we don't have that travel linkage, the implication is that there had been some transmission in the community before this came to our attention. Whether that was a single linkage back to a traveler or several degrees of separation, at this point we do not know that.
That was Dr. Sarah Kimball there giving us an update yesterday from the DOH. Let's move on, Ashley, to some other big national news.
That's right. Happening now in Michigan. Authorities there are searching for the parents of the teen accused of fatally shooting 4 classmates at a high school. Now, James and Jennifer Crumbly, the parents of Ethan Crumbly, were charged with involuntary manslaughter in the shooting. Prosecutors say they gave their son access to a gun and didn't intervene despite problems at school that day. The couple went missing just hours after the charges were announced, and they were expected to be arraigned today. But in another twist, CNN is reporting attorneys for the couple say the Crumblies left town for their safety and will return for court proceedings. We'll see what happens with that.
All right, we got to move on to potential severe weather. Not only are we tracking huge surf that's building over the weekend, we've also got to deal with this. This is our live radar of the state right now, and you can see a line of storms headed for the Big Island as we speak. They might be dying down just a bit, but there is a potential for wet weather for much of your weekend, guys. I'm so sorry about that. Let's turn it over to Billy V with an update.
On this Aloha Friday, and Billy B sitting in for Guy Hoggy, here's what we're taking a look at as far as your rain goes. A flash flood watch is in effect for the entire state of Hawaii due to the fact that we've got 2 different systems that are going to generate a lot of rain, heavy showers, possibility of thunderstorms. We've got an upper level disturbance up here that's kind of going counterclockwise. It's bringing up moisture from the south. Maui and Hawaii Island are going to get a lot of that because it's going to stall. It's not going to go anywhere. It's going to continue to dump rain. Then we'll have an approaching low that'll come over close to Kauai, but between these two, we'll put this in motion for you. You'll start to see that, that disturbance, and then now you see the moisture kind of come together. Then it just becomes a scramble of two systems and a lot of moisture. So Sunday, Monday, and even to Tuesday, look at Oahu's going to get a lot of those showers here, Monday and Tuesday. So some caution is advised. There's the possibility of higher gusts of wind associated with thunderstorms, and also they're saying, once again, heavy possible flooding could occur. 4 to 8 inches of rain could be happening through this week and into next week. So just kind of keep all of this in mind. There's your 7-day forecast. Get the latest on air, online, on your mobile device, and at hawaiinewsnow.com.
And a blizzard warning too for the summits. Can you believe all the weather action we're dealing with?
We got it all here in Hawaii.
Oh yeah, let's get to some lighthearted stuff, guys. And this is sort of funny because Tesla is expanding its line of vehicles to kids. Yeah? And it's going to cost you. Listen to this. The electronic car company is selling a 4-wheel ATV for children. It's called the Cyberquad for kids. It goes for $1,900.
Wow.
Yeah. That's pretty expensive. But it's currently out of stock, of course. Tesla says it's meant for children 8 and up. I would hope so. The battery has a range of about 15 miles, and the ATV can reach speeds of 10 miles per hour, which is relatively safe, but wear a helmet, folks.
Yeah, those are heavy duty.
Yeah. What'd you find, Ashley?
Well, to celebrate the season, McDonald's is bringing back a fan favorite sweet treat. It's the holiday pie. So McDonald's has released the festive pastry for the past 10 years, but the areas of availability vary. Now, fans have spotted the pies in places including Oregon, Illinois, and Texas so far this year. It's filled with vanilla custard, baked in a buttery crust, and topped with rainbow sprinkles. McDonald's says the pie will be available until early January, but won't be released nationwide. I gotta be honest, I've never seen this before.
I've never seen this one either, but put a birthday candle on top and you got yourself a cheap birthday cake. Yeah. All right, guys, really fun Good News Now segment. We're going to send it over to Casey Lund with an update on the Honolulu City Lights, and he's got a special friend with him.
Well, Shaka Santa is in good shape now and looking good in place in front of Honolulu Hale today, but it hasn't always been smooth sailing, or I should say sleighing, to get him here. Back in 2019, during his transport, he apparently hit a low-hanging branch on Punchbowl Street, breaking off part of his foot. Among other incidents with getting this awesome display in place, according to Honolulu Magazine, one of the Snow Lady's heads fell off during transport and rolled into a ditch. A gnome exploded across 3 lanes of the freeway. Rudolph's antlers got caught on a traffic light and ripped his head from his body, and a Pepsi truck hit Santa's Shaka hand clean off. But again, Shaka Santa lives on and is looking forward to seeing everyone this Christmas. But let's talk about the action that just happened. Mayor Rick Blangiardi and a member of the Honolulu Youth Commission placed the final ornament atop the city's 55-foot holiday tree on the front lawn here of Honolulu Hale facing South King Street. The topping of the 55-foot Christmas tree, the final step in the preparations for all the decorations that adorn Honolulu Hale and the Frank F. Fozzie building just down the way. An exciting time as some of those traditions are coming back, and the official lighting ceremony happening this Saturday, December 4th at 6:30. It is going to be a closed ceremony, but you can watch that on Olelo TV. I'm Casey Lund at Honolulu Hale for This Is Now.
Never a dull moment for Mr. Lund. And if you saw him this morning on Sunrise, he was dealing with those weather elements.
He sure was.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for This Is Now on this TGIF Aloha Friday.
Woo-hoo!
We've made it. So much news developing throughout the afternoon still. Ashley's going to be back 1 to 4 on KHNL. Don't miss that, and keep checking those H&N digital platforms. Have a good one.